It's an image we'll never get used to. Thousands of men and women, lives ravaged by drugs, roaming America's streets. Most often, the culprit is fentanyl, a synthetic drug 50 times more potent than heroin. In 2023, it killed nearly 75,000 people in the United States. Fentanyl generally comes from Mexico, where it is manufactured by drug cartels using chemicals imported from China. The United States accuses China of allowing this trade to flourish. Donald Trump even threatened it with reprisals during his election campaign.
You sell fentanyl into the United States through Mexico, we're putting a 25% or so tariff on until such time as you stop doing it.
What role does China play in this influx of fentanyl? Our investigation shows that hundreds of adverts can easily be found online.
Safe delivery to Mexico.
We contacted dozens of suppliers.
Hello.
Who sell the chemicals used to make fentanyl.
$10,000 for 25 kilos, friend.
Our investigation also shows how the Chinese government uses this threat to exert diplomatic pressure against the United States. Until 2018, fentanyl was being shipped directly as a finished product from China to the United States, as well as to Canada and Mexico. Online, you can still find websites that used to sell fentanyl legally. This advert from 2016 offers fentanyl for 6,600 yuan per kilo, equivalent to 900 euros. These adverts are now obsolete.
This ad is no longer available.
Because in late 2018, following a meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping, the Chinese government announced that China will include all fentanyl-like substances into its list of controlled substances. Exports were banned. But nothing really changed. Instead of fentanyl, Chinese companies started selling the chemicals used to make it, known as precursors. All that Mexican cartels had to do was mix these products to continue flooding the United States with fentanyl. The epidemic continued unabated. America put the pressure back on China, which ended up banning around 30 fentanyl precursors between 2020 and 2024. In June 2024, China also announced that it had conducted online cleaning actions for different types of substances, specifying that 332 enterprise accounts were forcibly deregistered and 1,016 online stores were taken down. Statements that don't seem to be backed up by actions. On investigation, we discovered the existence of online directories that are still listing hundreds of adverts. They still sell these banned substances or similar products. For all these adverts, the phone number country code is always the same, 86. The code for China. Sometimes a city is mentioned. All the adverts are in English. We searched for 1-CBZ4 piperidone, one of the precursors essential to the manufacture of fentanyl. Though banned for export, dozens of sellers are offering it. We contacted those supplying this product, which is referred to as CAS 19099-93-5 within the chemical industry. We posed as Mexican buyers.
Hello? Hello. What products do you need? I need CAS 19099-93-5. How much quantity do you need? 10 kilos. $350 a kilo.
He sends us a photo of the product. Another seller also agrees to supply us with this banned precursor.
If you want a large quantity, we can customize it. If you want a small quantity, we can give you a substitute.
This time, a video accompanies the message. She claims she has just sent another banned precursor to a customer in Mexico.
I just picked up 100 kilograms of 79099-073 and to your country.
To back up her claims, she even sent us a screenshot of the exchange with this Mexican customer, a man called Victor, as well as the label on the parcel leaving China.
So that was sent? Not yet. It's Sunday morning here, dear.
Then, the order number is out, dear Victor. It reads, to Mexico. Another seller was more cautious and turned down our request for this product.
Sorry, my friend, it is forbidden in China now. Do you have alternatives that are not banned? Yes, N-benzyl 4-piperidone. This
product, still authorized by China to this day, can also be used to make fentanyl. The seller explained that this precursor would transit through Hong Kong before being air freighted to Mexico. To avoid drawing attention from customs, Chinese sellers each have their own method.
We will replace it with a regular chemical name, and we have a lot of experience in this area. It is marked as a food additive, so it is very safe.
A supplier showed us the bottles supposed to contain the chemical precursor. The multiple bans announced by China since 2018 do not seem to have been enforced. It only took us a few days to find vendors of these illegal products. Why is China so complacent despite its commitments? The question arises as we have seen China using the fight against drugs as a diplomatic weapon. On the 2nd of August 2022, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the US House of Representatives, landed in Taiwan. China, which does not recognize Taiwan and claims the territory as its own, was furious. And to punish America, it didn't hesitate to suspend its participation in the fight against fentanyl.
佩洛西不顾中方的严正警告和反复交涉，执意窜访台湾，严重冲击中美关系的政治基础。中方宣布，包括暂停中美禁毒合作在内的8项反制措施，是对美台挑衅的坚决有力回应，完全合理、恰当、适度。
The fight against drugs became a means of retaliation. For more than a year, China ceased all cooperation. And this was not an isolated event. China also started instrumentalizing fentanyl in a completely different area. The issue of the Uyghurs in the province of Xinjiang. This Muslim minority is persecuted by the Chinese government. According to the United Nations, over 1 million have been imprisoned. China is also accused of carrying out mass registration of the Uyghur population, as well as DNA collection and iris scans. In 2017, the NGO Human Rights Watch alerted global public opinion.
The mandatory data banking of a whole population's biodata, including DNA, is a gross violation of international human rights norms.
The result? In 2020, the United States placed the Institute of Forensic Science, the state body responsible for these practices in Xinjiang, under sanctions. The institute could no longer buy American technology. On the Chinese end, these measures were not accepted.
美方对中方的指责完全是颠倒黑白，一派胡言，只能进一步暴露美方干扰新疆反恐努力、阻挠中国稳定发展的险恶用心。
And to exert pressure on the United States, China once again used the issue of fentanyl. To resume its collaboration in the war on drugs, suspended a year prior following Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, it demanded an end to US sanctions against the Institute of Forensic Science. And it got what it wanted. The United States announced this in a slightly embarrassed statement made by a spokesperson from the State Department.
It became clear to us in conversations with the PRC that the continued listing of the IFS on the Commerce Entity List was a barrier to achieving cooperation on stopping the trafficking of precursor chemicals. And so when we evaluated the issue and looked at all the merits of delisting the IFS, ultimately we decided that given the steps China was willing to take to cut down on precursor trafficking, it was an appropriate step to take.
The next day, the sanctions were officially lifted. The Institute of Forensic Science was removed from the list of restricted entities. For this Uyghur lawyer and activist, the United States had given in to immoral blackmail.
I remember feeling just deep anger because, we as civil society, we're putting our lives at risk, telling the world what's happening so we can end the atrocity crimes. And that decision to sanction these entities take years. If the Chinese government really wants to crack down on the drug smugglers, they could do this. They don't have to use the Uyghurs as a diplomatic leverage.
A year after the deal was struck, the US government is pleased with the progress made by China. But it might have rejoiced a little too quickly. In October 2024, the Department of Justice, which had launched proceedings against 8 Chinese companies, wrote,
The Justice Department acknowledges the efforts of the People's Republic of China Ministry of Public Security. The following indicted companies are now out of operation.
The names of 5 Chinese companies followed. Among those reportedly closed was Wuhan Jinshang Import and Export Trading Company Limited. Its telephone number was given. We sent them a message.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Need any product, friend?
And we realized that they were still selling the fentanyl precursor, for which they were prosecuted in the United States.
I need 79099,073 as soon as possible to Mexico. Yes, $400 per kilogram.
To get paid, the seller sent us the details of this Bitcoin wallet, a cryptocurrency. The wallet shows that since June 2023, 68 payments have been recorded, often for several $1,000s. The money never stopped coming in, even though, as far as the US government is concerned, this supplier stopped operating more than a year ago. We asked Alexis Pinon, Director of Digital Investigations at Forward Global, to look into this account. According to him, the money flowed from wallet to wallet until it reached these two accounts. One contained 12.13 Bitcoin, or 1,165,897 euros, while the other contained 14.8 Bitcoin, or 1,421,334 euros. By the end of January 2025, both accounts had been emptied, and all traces of the money had been lost. In recent months, the overdose epidemic has begun to decline in the United States. Will this last? It's too early to say. This decline is not sufficient for Donald Trump. On the 1st of February 2025, the US president started delivering on his threats. He increased customs duties on China by 10% in retaliation for fentanyl exports.